Hey, you guys, this is Courtney Camaro. I'm outside of Muhammad Ali's real original home. We're in Chicago, and I wanted to shout out Al's Botanics and Herbs. Man, when I tell you, I am one of those people that has insomnia. I can't sleep. I can't focus on some days because I'm so sleep deprived, and this has helped. This is one of the mixtures that he has that helps with sleep.
What's going on? I wanted to talk about a few topics tonight. There's a lot going on, so decided to come on here and talk about a few topics. First one is minimum wage. So there is like a hedge fund owner. Um, he basically he mentioned that the true minimum wage should really be over $100,000, and I'm gonna talk about why that will most likely never happen. And the reason why the minimum wage is what it is. First, let me just kind of show you what the minimum wage is, because most people probably, I would say, they probably don't know what the minimum wage is at this present time. So let's first show what the actual minimum wage is. Let's go to that. Actually, you know what? I made a mistake. It's the poverty rate. It's not the minimum wage. It's the actual um it's the actual poverty rate. That's actually what's going on. It's the actual poverty rate. Let me see if I can edit this. It's the poverty rate. It's a lot going on in the world. It's very a lot of critical things are going on. Okay, so I changed that. So let's talk about the poverty rate and why it will never change. If anybody in the audience probably could figure out why um, the poverty rate or level will not change. Very very simply, you could probably figure that out without me even saying anything. But here's the poverty rate right here. The poverty rate is, hold on. The poverty rate is for a single person is $15,650, and that's for a single person. For a family of four is $32,000. Now, my premise is the minimum wage should be changed. I mean, not the minimum wage, the poverty rate should be changed. But they're not, I understand why they're not going to change the poverty rate. The thing about the poverty rate is it's the poverty rate is a big deal because this is the rate in which you get basically government subsidies. You can get welfare if you are below the poverty rate. In America, if you're below the poverty rate, you can get certain subsidies. So to show how mission like how critical this is, we have to get the figure of how many people are actually in at or below the poverty rate. Or below the poverty line in the U.S. So you got to find that out first, because that's the first integer that you would need to kind of break things down. All right, so we know the poverty rate is like 15,000 for a single person, and 30 I think 2,000 or 34,000 for a family of four. Okay. So currently there's about 35.9 million, roughly about 36 million Americans that are basically below the poverty line. Okay. So that is based off of figures from 2024. Okay. Figures from 2024. So already right now, 10%, not saying all of this is not the people that are getting government subsidies. These are just the people that are below the poverty line. And they would, in essence, qualify for government subsidies based off of that fact that they're below the poverty line. So 10% is 35 million Americans. All right. So my premise is, okay, first let me show you the video of the hedge fund guy that's talking about the poverty rate should be basically 140,000. I mean $104,000, which will never happen either, because basically I'll break down why it won't happen, even if it should be. Well, I'll get to it. Okay. All right. So let's play that out. All right. Okay. So let's play this video. Then we're gonna break down some more numbers and do some math and show you why they keep that poverty rate as it is. Okay. Let's play this here.
Say, I've always thought that the national poverty line was more of a political construct, right? Designed for politicians to say we've made progress, right? When they never really truly changed lives. Oh, the poverty line is here, and you're making a grand more. We've done you a big favor. Vote for me. Well, my next guest is taking this whole proposition to a whole new level, and everyone has a strong opinion about his Substack titled How a Broken Benchmark Quietly Brought America Down. Let's bring in now Simplify Asset Management, their chief strategist, Mike Green. My man.
So this is the guy that's basically going around. It's probably, came up on your timeline. He mentions that the poverty rate should be basically the line should go up based off of basically living standards. Okay, living standards. So it's nothing different other than what I talk about this chart here. He's in this world. He's one. Okay, this guy. Wait, hold on. Let me actually look up this guy. Uh, uh, let's see what he's working with. Okay. Looks like a billionaire. I'm not sure. I don't know all of these guys. Okay. I study some of these dudes, but I don't know these guys' net worth and all of that. Okay. But he looks like one of those movers and shakers. Um let's see here. Yeah, he's a multimillionaire, but he's not like a billionaire or nothing like that. He's a multimillionaire. But he's in the world. He's he's like in that rich world. He's like on this curve here. Probably in, I would say, in an 80 percentile, 90 percentile range. He probably has friends that are, billionaires, mega millionaires, which is like people that have over $100 million. Okay. He probably has some of these people uh that are basically have money in his hedge fund that he invests for. Okay, so that's his world. And in that world, he knows that the wealth distribution in this country is it just, it's terrible. A lot of people don't know that. And a lot of immigrants, when they come over here, they get a wake-up call. And that wake-up call is probably the next DoorDash order or Uber Eats order, but it's a wake-up call nonetheless. And that wake-up call is America is not a place where a country where it's just giving out wealth to people. Okay. This country gatekeeps, red tapes, wealth. Okay. It safeguards it. It makes it very difficult. Um, and everything is basically rigged, right? And essentially, they won't raise the poverty rate, and basically the reason why I'll get to. But let's play this. Let me play this video here.
Golly, people are going nuts. First, I just want the idea of what made you even go down this rabbit hole.
Well, what actually sent me down this, we'd actually talked about a couple of the pieces that I've done before on this, where I was just candidly horrified by the reaction that we saw on Twitter to a right-wing influencer posting a somewhat inaccurate picture of a house saying in 1950 a single income could afford this, right? There was an incredibly coordinated and messaging backlash that basically boiled down to what possible right do you have to expect this? You're nothing, right? That framework ultimately sent me down the path of saying, hey, wait a second, this is actually really missing something that people are trying to convey. And as I dug into the numbers, and I wrote this on my piece, I was candidly horrified because as somebody who comes out of the financial world, who has done very well and is incredibly appreciative for it, and whose children have been successful,
Right.
I look at this and I'm like, this is something I never really spent a lot of time thinking about.
Right.
But the minute you dig into it, you discover that there's actually a terrible story out
So maybe you were living in an ivory tower and didn't know it?
I absolutely knew I was living in an ivory tower. My life is like, very few people have this.
The real math of survival, though. So we're talking about real survival, real poverty line. Child care, 32,000, housing, 23,000, food, almost 15,000, transportation, almost 15,000, healthcare, almost 11,000, other essentials, 22,000, add in taxes. You're saying the real poverty line is 140,000, essentially.
It is very close. And I want to just be clear that 140,000 doesn't mean you are literally poor, right? We're not
Now
talking about, country poor sort of stuff. What I'm describing there is that's really
he's basing it off of the cost of living. And in another chart is kind of it kind of brings to light what he's talking about is this chart here. Okay. Poor being 0 to basically $500,000, 500,000. Middle class being 500,000 to 2 million. This is more aligned with true class in this country, because you got to account for all of the billionaires and mega millionaires and such. It's one out of every 10 and one out of every I think 10, not 10. One out of every 100 individuals is a millionaire, or I think it's 10 out of every 100. Yeah, 10 out of every 100 individuals is a millionaire on aggregate. But he's basing it off of this chart here. Okay. Um, and it's not even though it's good faith, it's a good faith argument. It's most likely not going to happen. Okay, but he's basing it off of that. Like, really, to be honest, middle class, the $50,000 mark. Even they're saying 30. I don't, the middle class rate. Let's look at that. Let's look at what the middle class rate income range is, right? Like, what do they see that, like for example, okay, let's pause here. So we doing homework. We breaking this down, okay? All right. So this is middle class, okay? This is what they're saying middle class is. Basically 50,000 to 150,000 is middle class. Like little old, funds below me, I'm middle class. I'm, basically just sleeping through middle class. Like, doing my thing, bare just almost I'm in middle class being basically a slacker. And I know I'm not middle class because I don't follow this chart. I know I'm not. I know I got way more work to do. I got I got all kinds of things to do, right? I don't believe in that middle class thing. Even though, okay, yeah, society believes if you just make $50,000, you're middle class. And that's not true. It's totally not true. And the cost of living is basically telling you it's not true because you're like, oh, well, I make $50,000, and then you live in check to check paying rent.
Threshold at which you can cover all of the expenses without government assistance and start saving, right? Start preparing for your future. That's a very, very different place than most people think it is.
Now, obviously, people hit you and saying, and you talked about this a little bit in the piece, that, hey, it's a lot different in Mississippi than it is in Manhattan.
It's a lot different in Mississippi. And what's been so interesting to me is actually the anger and frustration and resentment of that number is typically coming from people who don't have kids, right? I see a lot of young, informed, intelligent commentators like, this is absolutely ridiculous. $32,000 for childcare. And in the meantime, the vast majority of my comments that are coming in are from people who are actually in that situation saying, you're 100% right. This is exactly my experience.
The lies, the housing lie.
Child care is the man. Oh my God. Child care is like more expensive or just as expensive as private school. Like, man, I ain't gonna lie, man. My children are older, but I remember when they were babies, my first baby, man. I mean, it was like, oh my God, every week. And we had to pay out of pocket, and I mean, oh my God, that was just, it was a burden. It was like, oh my God, man, it was a burden. I mean, I really, I didn't think that, it would be that much of a burden, but it is.
The hedonic lie. What's the housing lie?
Well, the story with the housing lie is this idea that you can afford to buy this house if you just be willing to settle. And this goes back to the piece that I wrote before. An individual had said, look, the problem is everybody expects larger houses today. They expect nicer houses today. Well, the reality is they expected that in 1955 as well. The homes that were being built at 1,100 to 1,200 square foot at that time period were dramatic improvements. Many people are now out saying 20% of the homes in 1950 didn't have indoor plumbing. 0% of the new houses in 1950 didn't have indoor plumbing. They were all being brought up to standards of the day. If you look at that exact same house today, it is nowhere near affordable. It is impossible for most families in a place like Essex County, New Jersey, which is the area that I was responding to in the initial post. They just can't afford it. There's nothing there for them.
The optical illusion of prosperity. What's that about?
Well, we absolutely.
Let's look at Essex. I don't really have that much time. I'm not gonna lie, but let's look at Essex, New Jersey, because I'm not really familiar. But let's be thorough and let's go over this. Let's look at Essex, New Jersey, just to get an idea of what he's talking about. I think he's talking about it must be Essex Fails, New Jersey. Okay. So I get off top, I'm basically I'm basically also a real estate expert. Believe it or not. I'll say moderately speaking. I've definitely put skin in the game, I got some of that skin as we speak. This is an A-grade neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Those that have been rocking with me for a few years, and I talked about the grades of real estate. This is one of those areas. Okay. The reason how I know that, it has all of the signs of a grade A neighborhood. For one, ain't nobody trying to sell a house. It's only 9 homes for sale. Like literally probably everybody that's selling their house, they probably all know who the person is that's selling the house, because it's only 9 fucking people, 9 families that are actually selling the house. So that's an indication of no one really trying to sell a house. Okay. And they're all pretty much north of $1 million. Okay. You wouldn't be able to afford to live here with middle class income. Like, I'll open up one of these, for example. Let's just open up one that's not too expensive. Let's go for this one here. This is probably the cheapest one. Okay. It's still being built. This is 1.599 million. Okay. Now, if you can see the estimated payment on the left here is $9,000 a month is your mortgage. Okay. So you already priced out. Middle class, you're already priced out. Okay. Now, let me get my calculator. All right. I gotta put some more memory in this computer. All right, so let's see here. There we go. All right. So $9,000, and that doesn't even include insurance, homeowners insurance. Does probably include taxes. Just the mortgage in itself, you are at $108,000. You're at $108,000 as far as the income, the money, just the money needed to pay this mortgage. Okay, $108,000. So in essence, you would need to make to survive. You and this is you got to understand, you got taxes that are taken out of your paycheck. You would need to make about 160 to $170,000 a year to be able to pay for that mortgage in that particular city. Okay, so you know, it's not even a matter of middle class being able to afford that. You'd have to be upper class to be able to afford to pay for that house.
Absolutely have progressed as a society, right? I'm sitting on this stage wearing very nice clothes and a warm air conditioner, or warm HVAC serviced environment. My life is dramatically richer and better than my grandfather's life was. But the reality is that base level of participation, the level at which I can start to contribute and start to benefit from how society has improved, has risen alongside that.
One of my favorite guests, really great thinker, Colin Roach, responded. And then you responded to his response, and you said, there's never been a better time to be born into human existence than this very instance. And the only time is the next instance, right? On this, we agree. But is that really true anymore? I mean, that was always, it always felt like that was the American promise. But is that the case right now? Because again, going back to what I see on social media, particularly from young folks, you know, they'll show a picture of some old couple dancing, say, yeah, they're dancing because they sold their house for $2 million they bought with a bag of apples. You know, a lot of people don't believe this is true anymore.
This is one of the challenges, right? You try to speak an element of truth and people immediately attack you as ignoring all the other components of it.
I mean, back in the even the 80s, in the 70s, you could buy a car, a used car for like $200, for like $100. And houses was like $20,000. You know, in the 60s and the 50s, houses was like $2,000, you know, $1,000. Probably even less than that. But you weren't making that much. You know, you weren't making that much.
I firmly believe that now is the best time to be born, and the only time better would be in the next minute, right? As human beings, we have an incredible capacity for affection and innovation and social support of each other. Right now, we're just caught in a framework in which we're not doing that. And people are trying to say, if you're talking badly about the current situation, you aren't appreciative and you don't understand how much better it is than when we were slaves in serfdom. There is absolutely truth to that.
With this innovative tool, you get your home's value in seconds.
All right. So yeah, that's Michael Green, hedge fund manager, basically multimillionaire. His argument is the poverty rate should level up, should go higher. He says it should be about $140,000. Here's the reason why the poverty rate is as it is, which is like basically $15,000 for a single person, and for a family of four, about 30 something thousand. Okay. Basically, I threw this in chat, you know, AI basically. And, you know, I proposed that the rate should go at least 50% higher than what it currently is. So in essence, the poverty rate, I propose the poverty rate should be 30,000 to 60,000. 30,000 for a single person, and for a family of four, around 60,000. This is the reason why even they won't even do this. And it's basically math, and basically the government and the people that influence and control the government, they don't want to pay more people for those subsidies. You got to understand the reason the poverty rate is it's basically a qualifier. The reason why it's a qualifier for government subsidies. And if it's low, only people that want to you basically have to take a vow of poverty, or you can manipulate the system by making money in cash and hiding your income. That's what most people do that do that, right? To get subsidies, they work in cash, right? But let's just say if my proposal, they just, hey, Trump pulls out, a pen or go through Congress, they go through a bill and the poverty rate goes to, it basically doubles. Okay. Poverty rate. And basically if it goes up 50%, that means that more people can actually qualify for subsidies if they wanted to apply for certain subsidies. Okay, so here's the problem with this. If they took the poverty rate from $15,000 to $30,000, this is where this gets tricky for the government. You put in what is the amount of Americans, or what how let's just say how many Americans earn at least, let's just say 30,000 to 60,000 in okay. All right. So this is where it becomes tricky. So let me share my screen again. Share my screen here. All right. So within that range of 30 to 60,000, let's see. Let's just see. Let's go deeper with this here. All right. So this is where the problem comes in. All right. So according to data, 31% of individuals and families make $30K to $60,000. Okay, that's the problem. If they change the poverty rate overnight, 31%, the government will possibly be responsible for 31% of individuals versus 10%. So overnight, America would turn into basically France, okay, where the government has a big burden to take care of its populace. So that means that basically a lot of people could afford, basically could get food stamps. A lot more families could get food stamps. A lot more families can even get Section 8. Any benefit you can think of, they qualify for it. Now, with 31% of individuals would qualify for subsidies. So this is very key because this is the range of individuals that actually do bear the most burden on society, or actually no, not, I don't mean this is the range of individuals that are burdened the most, because they make enough to not qualify for, basically to get government subsidies, but they don't make enough to really make ends meet. They're like, this is basically lower middle class. So those are the individuals. It's like, well, they see someone with a link card, getting steaks and crab legs and lobster tails, and they're like, man, it'd be nice for me to have some of that, but the the government wouldn't do it, and it's the same reason why they keep the minimum wage. They try to keep the minimum wage low. They don't want to pay more people. The government, they have the funds to make this happen, to where they can basically pay for 31% of individuals to basically pay for subsidies, but they won't do it. And the reason why is they would be responsible for more money. The budget will go up higher as far as for welfare, because basically more people will qualify. People that, I mean, now, like for example, there's plenty of articles that has come out, and they said that one of the biggest welfare recipients are Walmart workers and McDonald's workers, and even Amazon workers, because they don't make that much and they qualify for subsidies. And the companies they work for don't pay them enough to not have to qualify for subsidies. So, the thing is that, well, with this reality that I'm proposing with raising the poverty rate, just not to $100,000 like Mr. Green is mentioning, but just raise it 50%. They won't do that because now, people that work in corporate America, or lower level office workers, they would in essence qualify for food stamps, Section 8. They would qualify for subsidies, uh, because they're in that range of $30,000 to $60,000, and the government will not do that. Okay, even a slight, or that's not necessarily slight, an increase for 50% of raising the poverty rate by 50%, would actually help a lot of, all of the stuff that I talk about as far as the wealth distribution in this country being very low. Well, that actually would help with wealth distribution, because yeah, that would put more um, people in that are living check to check. That would ease the burden on a lot of individuals and families, because a lot of people make 31% of Americans make between the range of $30,000 to $60,000. I know a lot of people like, oh, they believe people throwing out $100,000 jobs like left and right. Well, 20% of individuals make make $100,000 or more. That's just everyone in the United States, exclude it, not including race. It's only 20% of individuals that make over $100,000. The rest make less than $100,000. So that means 80% of individuals make less than $100,000. Okay, so that would pretty much give a lot of people an instant jolt, um, in regards of wealth distribution, because I know I'm talking communist talk, socialism talk. I understand that, but what I'm saying is you got to understand other countries like in Europe, they have more they offer more subsidies to their citizens. Okay, and the thing is that just doing this would basically overnight lift the burden off of a lot of Americans, and that goes for everyone. I would say because there's a class element to this, a lot of people they wouldn't even apply for welfare. Like, for example, I wouldn't qualify. I wouldn't apply for welfare if they raise the minimum wage, because yeah, I don't want to go through the hassle and the trouble. I'm one of those kind of bougie persons. I'm not trying to apply for link cards and all of that. Even when I was unemployed for like a year. I could qualify for a link card and all of that. I didn't apply for all of that because I knew my situation would most likely be temporary, and just didn't want to just didn't want I didn't need it. So the thing is, you're gonna have a lot of people that probably won't even apply for it, But I would say probably most people would if they did qualify. So that would basically burden the government. And this is why they won't raise the poverty rate. Okay, this is why. Okay, that would probably increase the welfare budget to you know basically by 30% of what it already is. So basically, in case you didn't know, just to give you a briefing, it's going down in Ukraine. It is pretty much going down. The Russians are encroaching. This is, one of the things about Russia, if you know anything about, history, Russia does very well in winter warfare. So, what they like to do in the winter is basically increase the battle. Basically, try to destroy the enemy in troublesome weather like the winter, where it's cold and you know things are moving slow, things of that nature. And Ukraine was already in trouble, and they're already losing a lot of territory. And you got to understand, the Europeans, as well as different countries like the United States, they invested a lot of money into Ukraine. In my opinion, I don't think they're gonna lose. I don't think they want to lose that.
With our cutting edge chart,
they don't want to lose that investment. Okay. And they want to push back the Russians. Okay. So it's the head of NATO here giving a warning in Germany regarding Russia advancing.
I'm here today to tell you where NATO stands and what we must do to stop a war before it starts. And to do that, we need to be crystal clear about the threat. We are Russia's next target. And we are already in harm's way. When I became NATO Secretary General last year, I warned that what is happening in Ukraine could happen to allied countries too. That we had to shift to a wartime mindset. This year we took the big decisions to make NATO stronger. At the summit in The Hague, allies agreed to invest 5% of GDP annually in defense by 2035. We agreed to increase defense production across the alliance. And we agreed to continue our support to Ukraine. But this is not the time for self-congratulation. I fear that too many are quietly complacent. Too many don't feel the urgency. And too many believe that time is on our side. It is not. The time for action is now.
So yeah, they they running out of bodies over there in Ukraine. They snatching people off the street. They've been snatching people off the street. They pretty much emptied out their prisons. It's hardly no one, left to fight. They're basically bringing in people from other countries. Like I saw a video of some dude in Colombia over there fighting in Ukraine, helping out the Ukrainians. They are in, and they've been in trouble. It is not looking good. Okay. So I don't know, man. It's, you might look up one day, man, and you got a draft notice to basically show up to your local National Guard. Just a warning, okay? Just to kind of keep your heads up, because I know a lot of you, you're worried about, relationships and all of this type of stuff, where it's other more pressing matters at hand. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot more pressing matters. Okay. So lastly, and I'm gonna talk about the coach of Michigan, the former coach of Michigan. He just fired him, but I'll get to that if I have time. Basically, lastly, the future of capitalism. Okay. So, in regards to minimum wage, poverty, and basically capitalism in America, this is what capitalism in America looks like. Okay. Everybody down below and the rich are just way up on top of just the highest mountain top you can think of. And this is capitalism in America. Most people are at the bottom, struggling to survive, trying to make it, living check to check. Some even living day to day. this is the reality for people in America. And I hear things. I hear people talking about eat the rich, but unfortunately, the reality for some people in this country is the rich are not getting eaten. The poor is actually the ones that are getting eaten. And that pretty much is stress, health issues, a lot of pressure, and a lot of people pass away. A lot of people victimize each other. Like for example, not too like right in my backyard, literally someone got killed. Some couple got shot. So 37-year-old man and a 31-year-old woman, they got shot. The dude didn't survive. The chick, she made it to the hospital. They was able to kind of stabilize her. But yeah, like these things are going on because you have people at the bottom here that's scraping and scrapping, trying to survive in this capitalistic world. They don't understand what really probably is going on, or I don't know, what people are outside at 2 or 3 in the morning doing. I don't know, but um, you know, this is what actually is going on. I mean, people are pretty much getting taken on up out of here through their own means, bad health or whatever, or being victimized by other poor people. So in essence, capitalism is not necessarily sustainable. This is not a sustainable model. And let me show you something else. What's going on is we have a K-shaped economy right now. We basically have a K shaped economy. Okay. And I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about as far as a K-shaped economy. Okay. It's not necessarily what I was looking for. I'm trying to watch a video on that. Let me find a good example to show you, to help you explain what's going on with this economy right now, this K-shaped economy. All right, this is a very simple one, right to the point. I like this explanation here. All right. This is what I mean by a K-shaped economy. Let me show you this here. All right. So you see the halves right up here, right? Remember I tell you, basically this economy is, if you got a lot of money, you're doing good in capitalism. But if you don't have a lot of money, you're doing terrible. This is what's going on with this economy right now. If you got it, you're going up. You could possibly go up even higher. If you don't, it's a hard struggle trying to go up because you're already at a deficit. and the economy is already, pretty much messed up. So you got to understand, with things the way they are, by being this K-shaped economy, you're going to have less and less people that are halves. And it's going to be a situation where possibly it will be more have-nots than haves. It's already like that. And the have-nots will start growing, and then eventually they're going to start protesting. They're going to start attacking. You're going to have actual possible class warfare. Okay. And I'm not talking about class warfare where, people are being targeted by, demographics and everything like that. No, people out with fucking fire and brimstone, attacking people that have more wealth, or more they're people attacking the elite. Okay. You already have signs of that. You basically, the incident that happened, I think that happened about a year ago with what is a guy named Luigi, right? Mangione, right? Mario Brothers, right? Came out, made a custom silencer print machine, 3D printed silencer, and 3D printed gun. He wrote on the bullets, something he wrote on the bullets, but basically found the CEO walking on the street for United Healthcare, and put, a couple bullets in him, and there you go, right? Almost got away. They found him. He made a mistake by actually eating McDonald's, and that pretty much, probably made some other mistakes, but they won't, who knows if they'll come out with that. I mean, it's a lot of ways that they catch you up. But the thing is that's what I'm talking about. You're gonna have more of that cash, class warfare. Okay. You're gonna have more of that, right? So that in itself will lead to a possible situation where it could be a possible kind of like civil war scenario of a class warfare, an actual class civil war where the haves against the have-nots. Okay, it has not happened yet, but you never know, what can happen. But this is not a good thing. Okay, it's not a good situation. So that's that. Okay. Let me talk about this coach of Michigan. Basically, in case you didn't know, the skinny on it, he was a married father of two. His wife was, basically a white woman, married a white woman, had two children, and he had a staffer that helped him out, probably helped him, get equipment, or just helped out with the team. He got her pregnant, and he was trying to allegedly get her to basically end the pregnancy. Okay. You know, because obviously if she was pregnant, a baby is evidence, right? You know, it's almost like a baby is evidence of a crime, right? Well, in this case, that crime is this man that is basically the coach of Michigan football, which, in case you don't know, Michigan has been an elite football school, even basketball, going back to the 90s. So for multiple decades, Michigan has a certain culture and legacy of having winning teams, winning players. Tom Brady, you know, the GOAT, right? He came out of Michigan. Okay. Charles Woodson, you know, Heisman, you know, trophy winner. He played with Tom Brady. Michigan is like always, it's like Ohio State. It's like one of the top schools in the country. Okay. So becoming a coach, especially even football coach for the University of Michigan, and then, you know, that's definitely being a black male coach of an elite football institution like Michigan is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. You just don't get, I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. You just it just like it's a rare opportunity, very very rare. I mean, it is not something that just, you know, gets handed on your lap. So if the woman probably would have gotten, you know, had the baby or whatever, or if she wanted to have the baby, which it sounds like that's what happened. She wanted to have the baby. She had no plans of having any abortion. A lot, you still have quite a few white folks that are, I don't know the percentage of white people that are Catholic or, you know, or religious, and they don't believe in abortions. Okay. They just don't believe in that. It's just something usually religious based. And it even just might even to a certain degree might even be, yeah, I'll just say religiously mostly. Not saying white women don't have abortions. White women actually have quite a few abortions, but there is a small percentage that are religious that don't believe in abortions. Primarily, I do know Catholics. Catholics don't believe in abortions. Now, you know, he basically allegedly confronted this young woman that he gotten pregnant to try to you know, eliminate this child, right? The baby is the evidence of the crime. So if you have if it's a baby that is present, where did this baby come from? Who is this baby? Yes, it's the coach of the University of Michigan's baby. That's an embarrassment. He would have gotten fired if that came out anyway, most likely. So he was trying to avoid possible firings by confronting this chick, and basically he crashed out and he got fired early. The dumb motherfucker probably could have waited. He probably could have had another year before, you know, he got fired. He got fired right away because he crashed out in his confronting of this chick, and he went to jail as well.
We begin at 5.
It's really fucked up, but you know, this guy, you know, you got to understand, right? This is what you got to understand. This is what I thought about it, right? Most likely, Okay, I don't really know that much about this dude. Okay, but this guy is basically part of the black bourgeoisie. You could just say, just say the black bourgeoisie. College educated, probably played some football himself. Got worked his way up to be the assistant coach. I think the other coach I think is Jim Harbaugh or something like that. Yeah, Jim. I think Jim Harbaugh, I believe. And he got into some trouble, and then he went to go play. He went to go be the coach of the San Diego Chargers, and he got the position. Being the next man up, and he got this opportunity. But what I was thinking was you got individuals that they could use someone, a friend in a lower class. And what I mean by having a friend in a lower class, a friend that, probably either witnessed some things or they know some other people that probably went through worse scenarios. Like for example, I'm nowhere near this football guy, this football coach. As far as class, I'm nowhere near him. I admit that. Like a lot of people, especially black folks, they have a problem with hierarchy. They Every black person believes that they're the same, and they kind of almost believe in egalitarianism in the sense that there's no class and there's no hierarchy. But I do believe that there's hierarchies. This guy had a multi-million dollar contract. He was basically a millionaire. He was basically going into his second season. This is his actual second season. He was going to his third. And the thing is that if he would have contacted someone like myself, it was like, hey, Abdul, you know, hey man, I got this, my situation. I got this chick pregnant, man. I got one of my staffers pregnant. You know, um, man, I'm gonna get fired if they find out. I'm out of here. I would have just told him, calm down, calm the fuck down, you know, cool your britches. You already up. You already in the game. You already doing good. It's not the end of the world. It could be worse. Let her do what she do. You probably gonna have time before everybody else finds out. You probably gonna have maybe another year or two. You might even be able to maybe, kind of pay her, to just kind of like, get buy her a house. I mean, see, one of the things is basically some people, it's a reason why people have personal assistants. People have basically PR representatives. Okay. And the reason is for damage control. Like that's what that show Scandal was about. That particular star character that Kerry Washington played, she was basically someone that handled like basically possible scandals, or basically tried to control or even cover up certain scandals, handled them before things get too much out of hand, kind of like put water on the fire before it turns into an inferno. Well, that's kind of like what people need a lot of times, but they don't know they need it till after the fact. And in this case, this coach, Shamar, his name is Sharon Moore. He actually needed someone to help him through his crisis. Okay, calm him down, give him the right perspective. If you, like I say, if he contacted me, I would have been like, you just have to calm down and manage it, take it. Some things you have to deal with it day by day. You have to deal with crisis. Like, for example, even when you file, when you know go through a divorce, whether you file or your wife files on you, that's basically uh, a crisis management that you have to deal with, and you might have to deal with it long term if you have children. You know, you have to deal with basically crisis management. And this guy was definitely in a crisis, right? Your image is everything, right? Being a football coach of the University of Michigan, you know, you're not supposed to sleep with you know, college age students, and you're definitely not supposed to get them pregnant. So he was definitely in, let's just say, an image crisis. He had an image crisis on his hand. But what he don't know is he possibly could have dealt with it, dealing with the situation by basically handling it a different way. Basically dealing with things with basically gentle gloves. Some things you don't act like, you don't behave like a bull in a china shop. You deal with things with basically knitted gloves, or you know, put gloves on, and you handle it gently. This situation, it needed to be handled gently, not a bull in a china shop. And unfortunately, his natural reaction was to act like basically a bull in a china shop, or a wolverine, which is the, you know, basically the team animal that, you know, basically the University of Michigan it has as a mascot, right? A fucking wolverine, right? So the thing is that he already messed up trying to handle everything on his own, being peaked emotion, having peaked emotions, not thinking precisely. He basically crashed out. But the way, because you know, he probably just never been through anything. I've been in a war. I was on a aircraft carrier with you know, Navy SEALs on board, with you know, $1 billion planes with, you know, munitions on it. Um, you know, hey, who cares? You got a little young staffer pregnant, okay, and you could have fucking just basically bought her a house, gave her a salary, and she would have went away most likely, and just kept your privacy, and you still deal with her, and you still deal with your wife, and everything would have probably most likely been okay. But you know, the thing is that a lot of people that on that level, they don't have friends, um you know, like myself. They look down on people like myself, you know, or others that are not on their level. Okay. So they wouldn't even, the idea of you being a friend, it just wouldn't cross their mind, you know, or anybody that is of a lower class than them, right? And it's like, it's helpful sometimes to have certain individuals, man, that can kind of help you see things from a different perspective. because you already up there. You already on the mountain. Okay, the worst thing can happen, you lose your job. And okay, who cares? You go get another job, maybe not in college, but maybe you could go in the pros. You can join, you could be an assistant coach in a NFL. Fuck it. You could have been an assistant coach for Harbaugh in San Diego. But again, trying to deal with everything by yourself, here you go.
With live pictures here of the Washtenaw County Jail in Ann Arbor, Sharon Moore, the former coach of the winningest program in college football history, is in custody in the jail right here. Tonight, we dig into unheard 911 dispatch audio and what this saga could mean for the future of this storied program. Right off the top here at 5, the Washtenaw County prosecutor expects Moore to appear in court tomorrow to be arraigned on the charges.
But right now, we don't know what those charges are. Let's take you through just a brief timeline of the last 24 hours. So late yesterday afternoon, Moore was told he was being dismissed. Then at 4:10 p.m., an alleged assault was reported in Pittsfield Township.
The announcement of his firing came at 4:45. Then at 7:15 came the announcement of his arrest in Saline.
We've got this story covered on all angles tonight. Hobie Artigue is gathering information into who could be Michigan's next head football coach, and Amaya Kuznicki is following the fallout on campus, including what could come next.
So let's start things off with Erica Erickson. She's live at the Washtenaw County Jail with new information on the criminal case here.
Well, as you were saying, this all went down just 24 hours ago. We just got our hands on some of that 911 dispatch audio that started, we'll say around 4 o'clock. Take a listen.
Subject just called the caller, told her there's a male at the location and the house attacking her. The state's been stalking her for months.
That's just part of dispatch audio relaying a 911 call coming in from this Pittsfield Township apartment complex.
The person she's on the phone with, that's one grabs a knife, threatened the caller, and then ran through the knife down.
See, this dude is, I can't, I believe the chick, okay? It ain't because I'm a simp or I got a simp chip. I do believe this motherfucker because he was at this woman's apartment, right? He was going crazy. And I believe this motherfucker was doing that shit. I believe it. I believe this dude was stalking this chick for months. She was pregnant. He goddamn it emptying his ball sack in this chick, having a good old time, got her pregnant. And he trying to, coax her into having an abortion. She probably didn't want to have one. You got to understand. You got the coach of University of Michigan's offspring inside your stomach. You got the future, basically, you got to understand, class is class. Doesn't matter about race or anything, especially nowadays, race is not really that big of a deal as it used to be 50 years ago. Okay. And then you got to understand this dude is the football coach of the University of Michigan, multi-million-dollar contract. So she was going to be set anyway. And this dude is probably thinking about all that and the fact that he might get fired if this happens. So he's trying to control the situation, trying to actually stalk her and all this type of shit. And it's like the way he handled it was just really dumb. Really dumb, And this is the culmination of all of that.
The audio from around 4 o'clock Wednesday afternoon, and not even an hour later, former Michigan football coach Sharon Moore fired. The university sending out a statement saying he'd been fired due to an inappropriate relationship with a staff member.
He calls S1's wife in Ann Arbor saying that the subject is suicidal, reference losing his job today.
A source tells NBC Sports Thursday the university had allegedly been alerted prior to Wednesday that Moore had been dealing with, quote, mental health issues. But athletic director Ward Manuel allegedly fired Moore, quote, alone with no HR rep and no security present. Moore still in protective custody at the Washtenaw County Jail. Pittsfield Township Police and
he's still in jail. Oh my God, this is crazy.
investigating the alleged assault. No charges officially filed.
Sharon Moore, man, he was given a job that he probably would otherwise not have gotten as Jim Harbaugh's assistant. Both Jim Harbaugh and Ward Manuel, the athletic director, believe that he was the guy for the job. But it's a lucky break from a huge break. And here he has squandered all of it. Absolutely all of it.
Local 4 catching up with attorney Joseph Simon, who we believe may be representing the former coach. He only says,
I'm not even confirming I'm representing him. I don't have any comment for you, okay?
Really active situation. The prosecutor's office says while this is a very active investigation, they still say Moore is expected to be arraigned, although not officially charged yet. He is expected to be arraigned here in Washtenaw County tomorrow.
So you just got to think about it. You done made a situation that, yeah, I will admit, it's kind of hot and heavy. You're married, you got a whole family at home, and then you got basically one of your staff members, your young college aged, in college most likely, age, staffers pregnant. Yeah, that's pretty you're not gonna be look good in society doing that, especially being the head coach of Michigan. But you don't want to be locked up behind no jail cell. He would have not. See, what this is one of the things that people don't understand till that once they get locked up and they get a wake-up call once they get locked up, they realize how dumb the decisions that they made. So yeah, it's messed up, right? Oh yeah, and then you got, all of these things that you got to deal with. You got a baby that you didn't really want. You got your family. Your wife probably might divorce you, or basically, it's never, the relationship ain't gonna never be the same again, because every day you the person that went out and got your staffer pregnant. She got to wake up to you every day. But you make the situation worse by going to get locked up, doing something, going to get locked up. And I think he probably lost his, someone that, has dealt with, mental problems and shit for a long time. I can tell when someone fucking flipped out. This dude, he probably lost his noodle. He probably, was probably just he probably wasn't sleeping and shit, worried about it, and probably he probably went psychotic. It looks like all of the work of a person that went and basically blew his lid and went psychotic. So now his situation is worse. Now he's gonna possibly face some type of jail sentence or prison sentence, and he still got to deal with all of the fucking problems that he already had. Like, the thing is this: it might be, like I say, dealing with things with gloves, and you got to tell somebody. He seems like the type of person that just tries to deal with all of his problems by himself. And it's like, you got to understand, you got to have an advisor. Every king that walked this earth had an advisor, had a court, and had people in that court that helped him with certain affairs. And it's like, man, the thing is like, I think he was the type of person, he was trying to handle everything by himself and not tell anyone, and it's like, nah, you can't do that. You gotta you got to get some help, man, from somebody. At least get, someone that's probably been through the shit. He could have contacted a former NFL players. This is like regular to them. This is normal, for NFL players. They, had some type of, situation. Hell, Stephon Diggs had 4 kids. He got 4 kids in 1 year. Okay, what? You got 1. Okay. Stephon Diggs had twins and 2 other babies in 1 year. Okay. I mean, like, he could have contacted somebody in the NFL, man, get some advice. Like, what should I do or whatever? And it's like, man, now it's a worse situation. And it's just like, I ain't gonna lie. On the as a racial type of element to it, they're gonna put the race card to this shit, and it's gonna be like, well, I will admit, like, it's not a racial thing, but they're gonna bring race to it because you got a black dude, that's basically banging white chicks and knocking them up. All of the racist, people talking about you destroying thousands of years of genes and all kinds of shit. It's not a good look. But the thing is, it's like, you made the situation worse than what it should be. And now it's like, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Like, if University of Michigan just don't hire any more black coaches, man, I can understand. Like, I mean, it's just fucked up, man. This dude couldn't be a high school coach, let alone a college football coach, just wasn't ready. You could see he could. Some people cannot handle certain pressures. It's a lot of pressure being a football coach for basically an elite school, which is like University of Michigan. It's a lot of pressure involved in that type of position, and a lot of people can't handle that pressure. He got hooked up, being an assistant coach with Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh left, like I said, and he got handed the reins. Obviously, he could not handle the pressure. It's too much pressure for him. And he obviously can't control himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't gonna lie, like, I get it. You want to have sex, you want to have some variety, you want to get, you want to have your fling, you want to have your cake and eat it too. But you got to understand the consequences when it comes to that. Like, babies you make babies when you're having sex. That's what happens. And you don't have control of who's gonna get pregnant and what they're gonna do with the baby and all of that shit. Women have control of that. And you trying to convince them and all that type of shit, that might not necessarily work in your favor. You got to be able to make your bed and lay in it and understand, okay, this woman might not go with my demand of her going to go get an abortion. Okay, and I might have to just live with that. And this guy couldn't take it. I mean, once in a lifetime opportunity, short-lived. He was going to get fired probably in his mind either way, but I don't think he would even got fired. All you have to do, he's got millions of dollars. Just gave the chick $5,000 a month and bought her a house or a condo and just kept it under the wraps. People do that all the fucking time. Like my mother told me. I'll leave with this. You can please a bear better with honey than shit. I mean, like literally, I ain't gonna even lie. Like I think my ex-wife do watch my content. I don't know, but like literally, that's what I had to do certain crisis management with my ex-wife in order to get out of fucking child support, like the fucking courts and all of that type of shit. The state, I had to fucking work out some type of arrangement with my ex-wife. Like I have kids by her. I have to be responsible. We can come up with some type of arrangement, and that's that. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that that's gonna last forever. I don't know how long it's gonna last. I mean, it's been lasting for about 10 years so far, but the thing is that like you can please, someone better with fucking honey than shit. And it's just like, a lot of dudes just don't know how to fucking like, they don't know how to like deal with certain things and just, I mean, you can't necessarily have everything you want. Like, this ain't Pakistan, it ain't Saudi Arabia shit. Like you probably glad that this ain't, because if this was fucking Saudi Arabia, man, that motherfucker probably been got flogged or got his head chopped off because for adultery. So I mean, this is crazy, but this is what happens when you don't have no advisors and you try and do everything by yourself. This ain't you working in the mailroom in some corporation and you deal with everything by yourself. No, this is high level. You got a lot, you got the notoriety, you got more notoriety than the president of the university, being a football coach of the University of Michigan. Like, you need help, man. You can't do everything by yourself.
He said take a village to raise a child, but what if the village is retarded?